this mimer I'm beginning with other mamorim mixed into my mind. There is the Inyan Kloli that Machzis HaShekel has. In Avodas HaAdam, the idea of Klolius, the general idea, the general type of concept that every Yid has is that they are Maminim, B'nei Maminim, they are believers, children of believers. That's the level of Amunah that everybody has. Hashem wanted that we should have avoida, that we should do things out of avoida, that we should do things that shouldn't be in a way of named ksufa, like he said, it shouldn't be bread of shame. So he made it that this general idea of emunah will not impact us unless we make it so. He made it that the emunah is not something that by itself comes down into the Eser Koiches HaNefesh. Rather, it's possible to have Gamva Pumachtar to Rachmana Karya, that a thief on the entrance to the tunnel that he's about to dig will ask for Hashem's help, even though he's going against Hashem's will, because that's the level of emunah, that it's beyond his inner soul powers. The avoida has to be ura emunah. One has to feed the emunah. One has to take out the emunah to pasture. That we need to make sure that the emunah should be permeating our inner soul powers. That means to permeate our inner soul powers. We learned in the last part of the Maimer yesterday, on page Ches, that it's through Havana Vasag, that when a person uses their mind, they could understand that if I believe in Hashem, that He could help me in a specific matter. I'm davening to Hashem to help me in a detailed matter. I'm asking Him to help me out. The thief is asking Hashem to help him out in robbery. So if I can believe that Hashem listens and helps me in specifics, He can help me, that I can ask Him, He can help me in finding my parnasa, making a living in a kosher manner, not through theft. So therefore, this meditation, this contemplation, which is not just something that the Nefesh Elokis understands, but even the Nefesh Bahamis understands, helps and takes the emunah, which is a general soul power, and brings it down into the Eser Koiches, into the 10 powers, which is related with the fact that there is the Esrim Geira HaShekel, but a half a shekel means to bring it down in the 10 Geira, meaning the 10 Koiches of the Nefesh Elokis, and through that, he spoke about earlier, this will bring about a kapara for his soul, like he spoke about earlier. Now the Rebbe is going to introduce that there is really a higher level in what emunah's function is with the emunah's connection with the practical and with the Eser Koiches HaNefesh. Not just that it should ensure that the Eser Koiches HaNefesh act in accordance with his emunah. So like I mentioned before, we're holding on line 16 on the 4th page. There's even a higher level of the interaction between emunah and the Koiches HaNefesh. That on this higher level, here is where it applies the term that you will raise up the head. You have already the head, you have the Havana Vasaga, you have the understanding, but you're raising it up. This means even after the first stage that we spoke about, that through contemplation, through his bonus, I take this emunah, which is a davar klali, and I bring it down into the koiches. There's a higher level. Ain't a maspik. This is insufficient just to take the emunah and bring it into my understanding. There has to be a raising of the head. What does that mean, raising of the head? We are taking the understanding it and raising the understanding to a higher level. Previously, the function of the Havana Vasaga is to make the Emunah permeate the person, that it should affect me all the way down to my world of action, not like the thief that believes but it doesn't permeate his life. But when we're talking about a higher level is that now the Emunah permeates and raises my understanding to a higher level. And we said that the idea is that we have to have kisisas roish b'nei Yisrael, that this is something that Takem Moshe Rabbeinu accomplishes. Like it says, to raise it up to the level of belief and faith, the way it's from Moshe's perspective, this belief and faith. As I mentioned before from a different mimer, that to Moshe Rabbeinu was said the command, you will raise up the head. In other words, the mind should come to a higher level, should come to an appreciation and an understanding of things the way Emunah would want the mind to understand. Raya Mehemnan Moshe Rabbeinu is the faithful shepherd. What's it mean, the faithful shepherd? Also that he's the shepherd of faith. Shu roya umefarnes as Emunah zu chulu, that he is the one that takes out the pasture and sustains and feeds this belief, and makes now that the understanding is now of a greater type because the Emunah was brought down into it. What does this mean, that the understanding is raised up and the belief is impacted by this? So he says in line 25, Ois Dal, the close Habir Bezad, the general explanation this is, the fact that Eden are believers, children of believers, it's because of the inheritance, that because Avraham Avinu was called the Rosh Lemaminim, the first of the believers, so Avraham Avinu transmitted this to his offspring, to his descendants, following him, and therefore Yidden have an innate belief. That is the Avraham Avinu's belief. Then there's a belief that Moshe Rabbeinu brings the Yidden to. Ulamailum is then higher than the belief of Avraham Avinu. Is the idea of belief the way it's from the perspective of Moshe. The idea of Moshe Rabbeinu is the idea of Torah. Like it says, Zichru Torahs Moshe Avdi. Remember the Torah of Moshe, my servant. This is what it says in Malachi. What's it mean, remember the Torah of Moshe? It's not the Torah of Moshe, it's the Torah of Hashem. But rather, Shenikras al Shmoi, the Torah is called Torahs Moshe, it's called by his name. Why is it called by his name, even though it's Hashem's Torah? Because he gave his life for it. And therefore, since Moshe is representative of the inyan of Torah, so the emunah that Moshe transmits is a Torah type of emunah. This belief that Moshe Rabbeinu transmits to the Yidden, and that's the idea of Kisisas Roish, is from the perspective of the idea of Torah, and that is its advantage over the emunah that's called an inheritance from the forefathers. That's the emunah the way it was before the giving of the Torah, because the forefathers were not able to transmit the emunah as it is from the Torah's perspective as emunah, because they were from the period and the era before Matan Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu, whose life was Torah, when he transmits to the Yidden, emunah from the Torah perspective. So the Rebbe is going to go on to explain in line 6 what this means on page 10. The idea behind this is though even prior to Matan Torah, Torah existed, and like the Rebbe always brings down, that Avram was an elder, Zaken Yoshev Yeshiva, Yitzchak was an elder and sat in the yeshiva, etc., etc., and Yaakov sent Yehuda to establish a yeshiva Mitzrayim, and there was never a time in Mitzrayim when there was no Torah learning. So even though Torah existed and the Torah of study existed, Mikol Makim still in all, Ein Ze K'moshe Torah Mitzad Matan Torah. It's not like the Torah is from the perspective and from the level of the way the Torah was given. It's not on that same level. Before the giving of the Torah, there was a decree that the ones above should not ascend below, and the ones below should not ascend above, that the physical and the spiritual cannot join. As opposed to at the time of the giving of the Torah through Moshe, this decree was nullified. Beginning from the above, descending below, like it says, that Avai descended on Har Sinai. That's the uniqueness from the perspective of Matan Torah. All the services that the forefathers did, as great as the level of the service of the Avos was, the highest they reached was only the root of the creations, because a person that's doing an avodah that's based only on themselves can only reach as high as from wherever I come from. As long as there was that barrier separating the above and below, I could only attain that level that my soul comes from. And therefore, since the avoid of the Avos could only reach to the root of the created beings, so from this understood that since creation by its very nature, even the Avos, are limited, so the level that they would only reach was a limited, measured level. As opposed to from the perspective of the giving of the Torah, all matters occur in a way as beyond measure and boundary. That's what happened through Matan Torah. This is also what the Rambam writes about the mitzvah of Milosh. We don't circumcise ourselves because Avram Avinu went through a bris milah, but rather because Hashem commanded us through Moshe Rabbeinu that we should circumcise ourselves. Why? Because what Avram Avinu experienced was still a limited aspect of it, even though Hashem commanded him, but because it was before Matan Torah, it was still not possible to have the true unlimited level, as opposed to after Matan Torah, what we attain through the Bris Milah is what the quality that after Matan Torah creates, the unlimited connection with us. That's the idea of fulfilling mitzvahs that's beyond a level of that's measured and bounded. What does that mean in Torah study? What is the chidush of the Torah after Matan Torah versus before Matan Torah? That we can attain after Matan Torah. Not just the level of Torah, the way it's considered just something that falls off the tree of Chachma alone. It's only Noivlis. After giving the Torah, we are able to experience that level of Torah the way Hashem and Torah are entirely one. This is also the difference between the level of emunah from Avram's time that we inherited as children of Avram versus the belief that we received based on Moshe and his connection with Torah. The belief from Avram's perspective is only in the level of godliness that's limited, that fills the world, that is tailored according to the worlds. Top of page Yud, even the belief in that which transcends and encompasses worlds, that we can believe because of our inheritance of belief from Avram Avinu. It's still a level that has a certain association with the worlds. It's derived from the fact that we say soivev kolam. It's still something that that surrounds and encompasses the worlds, meaning that the level is measured by the worlds. It's in a negative way. It encompasses the worlds. It doesn't permeate the worlds, but the very fact that its encompassing nature has to do with the worlds and is contrasted with the worlds, it still has a connection with the worlds. That is all the belief as we inherited from Avraham Avinu. As opposed to the belief that's from the perspective of Moshe is the level that I am Hashem your God, the level of I who is higher than even than Alakecha, which is enclosed in the worlds, Havaya, which is higher than the worlds. It's Hashem's very essence that's completely beyond the worlds. This means the belief is not just that the entire existence and the ongoing existence and life of the world is because of the godly life force that brings into being and makes the world exist constantly. Like the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov on the Pasuk. Always Havaya, your words are set in the heavens, meaning causing the heavens to exist. That perspective where you believe that godliness gives life to the worlds constantly, that is a perspective that the worlds exist, but its existence is thanks to godliness. This belief is the level of godliness that's involved with the worlds, that's embodied and clothed in the worlds. But rather, the emunah that Moshe Rabbeinu imparted, the emunah that Moshe Rabbeinu gave us is the God in the godliness beyond the world. In comparison to the level of godliness that's beyond the world, even the source of life is only something with you. Like it says, with you is the source of life. It's ancillary and nullified before you. It's only a ray in comparison to Hashem, because the source of life is inconsequential compared to Hashem himself. Just like a ray is inconsequential to the sun, for example. But Hashem's very essence, less no thought can grasp him whatsoever. And when we talk about no thought can grasp him, we're not just talking about our thought can't grasp him, or the thoughts of Malachim, or the thoughts of Neshamas in Gan Eden, but even the early thought of supernal man, the first level after the Tzimtzum Rishon, cannot grasp Hashem's essence, and even higher than that can't grasp Hashem's essence. The level of Hashem's very essence is there's nothing besides him, not like the level of godliness that gives life to the world, is something that relates to the world. So you can't say Einoid Milvade in the complete manner of Einoid, because there's still a relationship with the world. But from Hashem's essence, over there's the perspective and belief and appreciation that there's nothing besides Hashem. So that is the emunah that Moshe Rabbeinu imparts, the belief in Hashem's essence, the belief of Einoid Milvade. And that is by Matan Torah, and that's the belief that has to do with Torah, and that's through Moshe, line 18. And drawing down this higher level of emunah, higher than the emunah that we inherited from Avraham, and the way that it is sustained and fed, it's through Moshe Rabbeinu. Because the idea of Moshe Rabbeinu, is the idea of Torah, like we mentioned earlier. It's the level of Torah, the way it's joined with Hashem's very essence, that's beyond the entire definition and category of worlds. Because it's a level of Torah and Hashem are entirely one. In other words, like this: just like Hashem is beyond the worlds, So the Torah that's joined with Hashem is also beyond the worlds, and it's impossible to talk about worlds in the same breath as we're talking about that level of Torah. So when Moshe Rabbeinu reveals that level of Torah, so through that level of Torah, we have that level of connection and emunah in Hashem. And this belief and faith is what Moshe Rabbeinu draws down the Yidden. How come? Because Yidden, through Torah, also become one with Hashem. So therefore, just like Hashem's very essence is beyond the world, Torah is able to connect Yidden with that essence of Hashem, just like the Torah is one with Hashem. So the Yidden become now one with Hashem. So their belief is in Hashem's essential state that is beyond the world's totally. Oisei, line 26. That's what it means when you will raise the heads of the Bnei Yisrael. Though there's already the faith that the Yidden have because of the inheritance that they inherited, the faith from Avraham Avinu, and the way already comes down in understanding, like we said, in the first level, that a person needs to take that faith, which is makif, and bring it down into the 10 koichs and nefesh, into understanding, so that the faith imparts their actions, not like the thief that davens to the Eibishter. The emunah, the way it comes down into understanding, that's the head of the Bnei Yisrael. But it's not just enough to have the head and the understanding of the emunah, but you have to raise it. Sees the top of the last page. That still has to be, you have to raise it. We ask why specifically the head? Because the head, this understanding of Bnei Yisrael has to be raised. Not just kisisas Bnei Yisrael, but the head of the Bnei Yisrael. That the belief should be in a much higher level, like we mentioned previously at length. By days of boy, through that we come to the perfection of future times, of Mashiach's times, like it's explained in the Mamorim on the pasuk Yadaita, that Hachal Madrushin Shvulk the Torah, beginning in the Mamorim the Torah that speak about this topic via Daita, those very topics that now we know in a way of belief and faith, in the future there will be in a way of knowledge that we will actually know them intellectually. Like it says, the earth will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem, like the waters covers the sea. Yam, the level of the sea, Alma Diskasi, it's the concealed worlds. It's that which is beyond understanding. Minamayim Shisiu, he was drawn out of the water, meaning that it was from a level of concealment. So it'll be, instead of Yam, it'll be in a way of Deyas Hashem. Tia B'chinas Yediyah will be in a way of knowledge, even though now it's concealed and you don't see, just like when you look at the sea, you don't see the animals that are in the sea. The Ilu HaEmunah, and that was also the level that Moshe Rabbeinu was taken from. That's why it says Kamina Mayim Mishisiu, because he was from the level of the concealed level. The Ilu HaEmunah Tia. So, but Mashiach comes, those things that were concealed now will be revealed. Does that mean we won't have emunah? We'll have emunah in higher levels. The belief then when Mashiach comes will be in a much higher level. In the level it's beyond the entire paradigm and definitions of worlds. The level of the Torah and the Eibishter being entirely one.